Still no word from Downing Street this morning following fresh allegations of a Christmas party taking place during lockdown last December. A leaked video appears to show staff discussing a party as they rehearsed a media briefing in the Downing Street press room. Joining us now is the former Director of Communications at Downing Street, that's Alastair Campbell. Hello to you, Mr Campbell. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. You've had one or two scrapes as communications expert in your time. How would you be dealing with this morning?
Well, we may have had one or two issues that we had to deal with, but we didn't have issues to deal with that were created by such craven incompetence. And I'm afraid this is all driven by the fact that we have as Prime Minister a liar. The minute this story broke in the Daily Mirror, they went into denial mode. They went into obfuscation mode. They've forced about a dozen ministers to go out and defend the indefensible, to pretend run this line that no rules were broken. The fact of the matter is, if there was any social gathering at all, that was itself a breach of the rules. So you cannot, on the one hand, fail to deny that there was a party, though eventually they did deny it. And of course, what's happened now is that people are seeing the Labour have been attacking the Tories for some time now, one rule for them and one rule for us. And that's exactly what was exposed by that video last night. To these people, it's all a game. You saw the same with the Jacob Rees-Mogg video, where he was off with his right-wing libertarian friends at the Institute of Economic Affairs and making jokes about how the police won't be investigating them and they're moving the distance from metric to imperial and all this other nonsense that they come out with. It's all a game. And I think what sometimes happens is that it happened a little bit with Dominic Cummings and Barnard Castle. I think it's happening with this, that the real character of the government comes through and there comes a point where the public, frankly, are sick of it. And I think that's what we're reaching with this.
So how does the Prime Minister fix it now? Is it too late?
Well, that's a matter for him. I mean, you know, you're asking me questions as to what I would advise Boris Johnson. I wouldn't ever work for somebody like Boris Johnson. And somebody like Allegra Stratton, she's got herself into the problem that she's now in because she assumed, I imagine, that you could go and work for this guy and have some sort of integrity. You can't. I hope that the reason that Sajid Javid has pulled out of these interviews today, by the way, is that finally ministers and MPs, Tory MPs, are discovering just a little bit of spine and are saying, we are not going to keep going out to defend your lying, your incompetence, your nonsense. And we're not doing that at a time when there are so many big challenges facing the country.
I understand that, but you know, he's not here, so I can't ask him. But maybe somebody will come along tomorrow. I've no idea. But you know, I'm in all seriousness, given that you are you know, spectacular when it comes to being able to deal with difficult situations. I suppose let's just ask on a hypothetical level: how, when you have said something time and time and time again for a week, and then it's proven potentially that that wasn't true, how do you get out of that?
Well, it's very difficult because, look, if he had any sense, he'd go along today at the House of Commons and he'd say, look, I was too slow to react to this. I was too slow to think that something may have happened. I didn't investigate it properly, and I apologise. I apologise also to the country for the fact that at a time when we were telling them to, you know, make the sacrifices, not see their loved ones over Christmas, not go to the funerals of people that they'd lost, cancel their weddings and all the rest of it, that inside Downing Street there were these parties going on, which clearly there were. Now, I suspect the reason he'll be reluctant to do that, two reasons. One, he hates to say sorry and he hates to say he's wrong. And secondly, I suspect this is not the only major social occasion that was going on inside Downing Street at the time. He'll also, I suspect, be a little bit paranoid because clearly now, unsurprisingly, there are people inside Downing Street so disgusted at the way that he runs the place that this stuff is starting to leak out in a way that's damaging to him. But if he had any sense, he'd fess up, he'd stand up there, he'd apologise to Parliament for having lied to them yet again last week when he said there was no such party and the rules were obeyed, etc., etc. All this nonsense he's peddled ever since. And he would then apologise to the country for the fact that he asked the country to do things which his own people and he himself were refusing to do. And of course, it's all of a piece. It's all of a piece with not wearing masks when he goes into hospitals. It's all of a piece with Dominic Raab saying that, you know, the police don't investigate crimes retrospectively when every crime is retrospective if you give it a moment's thought. And it's all of a piece with Raab also saying, and here's the big point, Kay, this is a government that wants to do away with any institution which holds it properly to account. That's why Parliament today has to stand up. It's why the media has to do a better job than it's done thus far of holding this government to account. And it's why this latest nonsense about, quotes, going to war with the judges, that has to be stopped as well. We are dealing with a very dangerous government, and it's defined by the character of Boris Johnson. His character is rotten, and that's why this government is in danger of being rotten from top to bottom and rotten to the core. And that is what we're seeing.
We are out of time, but I just want to ask you about Keir Starmer. I mean, you know, he's under a lot of pressure himself this morning. He's got an open goal, some might say, this morning. If he misses, goodness.
Well, look, he's the leader of the opposition, and he's the main part of his job. One of the main parts of his job is to hold the Prime Minister and the government to account. And yes, this is a situation where the country will be watching, and they want to see a Labour leader absolutely put this guy flat on his back, because that is where he deserves to be. We are being led by a liar and a charlatan. Let me just remind you, you and I have discussed this before, the 7 principles of public life: honesty, openness, objectivity, selflessness, integrity, accountability, and leadership. Johnson fails on every single one, every single day. And Labour should be hammering these people harder than they've ever been hammered before. And I really hope that Keir Starmer does put him flat on his back today.
We'll see. PMQs, 12 o'clock. Alastair Campbell, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.